being cautious on that, and where can we roll back and streamline regulations. I think we have done some things on that over the last couple of years. The business personal property tax, which lifted a huge burden off small businesses, is something that we've done last year, and I think that's something we ought to look at continuing, as well as other things to ease and update, frankly, really our economy and our way of doing business to the 21st century. Many regulations and many safeguards that existed at one point in time, or they came about because they made sense at one point in time, but the way the economy has changed and with many new opportunities, they may no longer make sense. And so I hope I'm sure we'll look at those things as well. And then finally, the one key area that is, all these areas are very important: education and renewable energy, and creating jobs in all parts of Colorado. And a key focus for this committee, for me, and I know Representative McFadden, is transportation infrastructure. We have underfunded our transportation infrastructure for many years many decades in this state, and we are paying the price for that in congested roads and limited and constraining economic growth and economic activity, as well as there's environmental impacts and safety impacts as well. So that is certainly one big area that I hope and I'm confident that we'll be able to bring some things through this committee that will provide some meaningful funding for transportation. So thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Representative Rice, for your willingness to serve as the Vice Chair. And I certainly can sense that there's a lot of passion and determination within the individuals that are stepping forward for this opportunity. I think that it is certainly the state's responsibility at such a serious time to look at what could be, in fact, a protracted downturn within our state, and how many families and how many individuals will be at risk as a result. I think that perhaps the state of Colorado now has a unique opportunity to perhaps look at cutting issues such as red tape, and also accelerating projects that we have currently coming through the pipeline. How can we, those dollars that we have set aside for certain projects, how can we accelerate those projects? How can we also hear from all sectors? This is time to give voice to many individuals within our economy. It's simply not our job to have all the answers, but we will look to the committee to make suggestions. The committee will have a fairly ambitious schedule over the next several weeks. I hope that your plans will allow for that. We will try to meet 5 times before the beginning of the session, and we have selected those dates. And that will certainly be respect that individuals have made commitments, but this is a very last minute and certainly an urgent issue that we're willing to address before the session. We plan to have bills that we can be introducing when the session opens on the 7th of January, and also working through the month of January and inviting other members of the legislature to work with us and putting together an economic package. Again, using a filter, it's all about jobs. It's all about our economy, and really trying to stay on course in Colorado when it comes to one of our most important elements of maintaining long-term the viability and the strength of Colorado's economy. At this point in time, again, I'd like to thank our leadership for taking the time and having us introduce ourselves, and we look forward to coming back to you with the specifics of the work. There will be a business advisory group that will be appointed, and we will look to those names being made available to us in the next week.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Just in case you did pull out your calendars, we are planning to meet, the days we have scheduled are the 4th, the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 5th of January. The 4th, the 8th, these are Mondays primarily, with the exception of next Thursday. The 15th, the 22nd, and then the 5th of January. We hope to schedule our time from 9 till 3, with the exception of the 8th, which will be from noon until 5. So we can go through that. We'll have those dates listed for you. I thought we would take an opportunity at this point in time to have an economic overview from our legislative staff. We are fortunate that Mike Mauer is here today, and we will have a presentation on what are what has really drawn our attention, and that is looking at our forecasts, and our forecasts are bleak. They're perhaps not as bleak as some other states, but it is no time for us to take pause. We need to step forward and take these issues into consideration and really have a very informed approach to what we're trying to accomplish. And so I think you may have some other members of your staff to join us. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Mike Maurer, Legislative Council staff, and I just have a couple kind of opening introductory comments for you, and then I'm going to turn it over to Todd Harriet and Natalie Mullis from the economic staff at Legislative Council to actually get hear you. Sorry. Then I'll turn it over to Todd Harriet.
Start over.
Okay. Mike Maurer with Legislative Council staff. I'm just going to make a couple of introductory comments before turning it over to Todd Harriet and Natalie Mullis with the economic section of Legislative Council, who will do an update for you on the state of the economy. The first thing I wanted to touch on was staffing for the committee. We are actually prohibited from staffing the committee because it is not an officially sanctioned committee at this point. When it is passed by a resolution in January, then we'll take over the staffing. However, Ron Kirk and Elizabeth Hansen are over here. They will be either attending or listening in to all the meetings so they can hit the ground running with you in January. And the other thing I wanted to do was offer, you're all still members or members-elect of the General Assembly. So we're still available to you to do research on these issues. We just can't actually staff the committee and set the agendas and so forth. So call us, come in and talk to us. If you want to sit down with myself or one of the economists, come in and we can talk all you want about these issues and we can do the research. So I was going to make that offer right off the bat. Then I just had a couple thoughts that came to me as we were kind of getting prepared for this. And I think you've already sort of covered it yourself, so I won't be giving you any new information, but there's really three areas that the legislature can look at, and that's tax policy, which is directly coordinated with the second area, the provision of services. And what you're really trying to find is the balance between how much you tax and what services you provide. Businesses can be overburdened if the tax rates are too high, and that can stifle business. But at the same time, if there aren't proper roads and qualified workers and proper infrastructure, that can stifle business activity. And so you have to look at not just do we need to lower taxes or do we need to provide more services, but where's the right balance between taxes and the provision of services. And then obviously the third item is regulation, which has been brought up several times. But it again is a balancing act, because if you overregulate, you obviously can stifle business activity. But at the same time, if you underregulate, you can leave legitimate businesses at the prey of illegitimate businesses, and you can leave consumers in a really hard spot. So again, it's not just we need more or we need less, it's what's the right balance for each industry. And then I thought I would, something that you might not like to hear, but as I've worked for 18 years here as an economist, prior to taking over my current job as director of the office, I found that the legislature is one piece of a big puzzle when it comes to the economy. And so you can obviously impact the three areas that I was just talking about, but a terrorist attack in 2001 had just as big of an impact on the economy here as the state legislature can. And the world oil price can have just as big of an impact. And Chinese monetary policy can have just as big of an impact. So you have to remember that you're working within a very dynamic worldwide market with the things that you're doing here. And you're also kind of restricted in other ways. If we think about what's happened in the last year, the federal government is currently working on a $750 billion bailout of financial industries and banks. The auto industry has asked for a $25 billion bailout. And earlier this year, there was a $180 billion stimulus package. And all of these things seem to be having some impact, but they're not magic potions that are solving the economics. You know, we're helping support some financial industries, but there is not free-flowing credit right now as there was 5 years ago. The stimulus package seemed to me to sort of be taking really strong medicine when you have strep throat. Until you get the penicillin, you're not going to get over it. So it helped prop up consumer spending, and it helped